What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to O'Leary's Garden, where life is a garden. Today, we're going to start a series called Anarchy. Now, in this little series, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read to you a work by Ericco Malatesta. Ericco Malatesta was an Italian anarchist born in 1853 and died in 1920 something. He spent most of his life banned from Italy, and he spent about 10 years or so in prison. And he wrote a lot of radical newspapers involving anarchy and socialist, not socialist, but not socialist as in socialism, but social perspective on society. And I'm going to read one of them to you today. Well, we're going to begin today. It's going to be broken up into 9 parts. This will be a 9-video series. And I'm just going to read it to you, because a lot of you out here, I want to help you reach some of these ideas. I'm not going to try and shove it in your face. But a lot of you won't go out and read it on your own, so I will read it to you. And as far as I understand, this work was published in 1891, 1890s. Either way, it's 130 years old. It should well be protected by public domain. I should not be breaking any copyright laws by reading this. Be more concerned about my book reviews, reading a half a paragraph in each of the books that I show. Then I'm worried about this. So, with that, let's get into it. You excited? I'm excited. So this obviously will be extra boring because I have so many crickets in this garage and you're going to have to listen to them for the whole time. My apologies. Here we go. The word anarchy comes from the Greek, and its literal meaning is without government. The condition of a people who live without a constituted authority, without government. Before such an organization had begun to be considered both possible and desirable by a whole school of thinkers, and accepted as the objective of a party, which has now become one of the most important factors in the social struggles of our time, the word anarchy was universally used in the sense of disorder and confusion, and is to this day used in that sense by the uninformed as well as by political opponents with an interest in distorting the truth. We will not enter into philological discussion, since the question is historical and not philological. The common interpretation of the word recognizes its true and etymological meaning, but it is a derivative of that meaning due to the prejudiced view that government was a necessary organ of social life, and that consequently a society without government would be at the mercy of disorder and fluctuate between the unbridled arrogance of some and the blind vengeance of others. The existence of this prejudice and its influence on the public's definition of the word anarchy is easily explained. Man, like all living beings, adapts and accustoms himself to the conditions under which he lives and passes on acquired habits. Thus, having been born and bred in bondage, when the descendants of a long line of slaves started to think, they believed that slavery was an essential condition of life and freedom seemed impossible to them. Similarly, workers who for centuries were obliged and therefore accustomed to depend for work that is bread on the goodwill of the master, and to see their lives always at the mercy of the owners of the land and capital. My cat's in the trash can. It is the master who feeds them. And Jeff, get down. To see their lives always at the mercy of the owner of the land and of capital, ended by believing that it is the master who feeds them, and ingenuously ask one, how would it be possible to live if there were no masters? In the same way, someone whose legs had been bound from birth, but had managed nevertheless to walk as best he could, might attribute his ability to move to those very bonds which in fact serve only to weaken and paralyze the muscular energy of his legs. If to the normal effects of habit is then added to the kind of education offered by the master, the priest, the teacher, etc., who have a vested interest in preaching that the masters and the government are necessary, if one were to add the judge and the policeman who are at the pains to reduce to silence those who might think differently and be tempted to propagate their ideas, then it will not be difficult to understand how the prejudiced view of the usefulness of and the necessity for the master and the government took root in the unsophisticated minds of the laboring masses. Just imagine if the doctor were to expound to our fictional man with the bound legs a theory, clearly illustrated with 1,000 invented cases to prove that if his legs were freed, he would be unable to walk and would not live. Then that man would ferociously defend his bonds and consider as his enemy anyone who tried to remove them. So, since it was thought that government was necessary, and that without government there could only be disorder and confusion, it was natural and logical that anarchy, which means absence of government, should sound like absence of order. Nor is the phenomenon without parallel in the history of words. In times and in countries where the people believed in need for government by one man, monarchy, the word republic, which is government by many, was in fact used in the sense of disorder and confusion, and this meaning is still to be found in the popular language of amongst all countries. Change opinion convinced the public that government is not only unnecessary but extremely harmful, and then the word anarchy, just because it means absence of government, will come to mean for everybody natural order, unity of human needs and the interest of all, complete freedom within complete solidarity. Those who say, therefore, that anarchists have badly chosen their name because it is wrongly interpreted by the masses and lends itself to wrong interpretations are mistaken. The error does not come from the word but from the thing, and the difficulties anarchists face in their propaganda do not depend on the name they have taken, but on the fact that their concept clashes with all the public's long-established prejudices on the function of government, or the state as it is also called. Before going on, it would be as well to make oneself clear on this word state, which in our opinion is the cause of the real misunderstanding. Anarchists, including this writer, have used the word state, and still do, to mean the sum total of the political, legislative, judiciary, military, and financial institutions through which the management of their own affairs, the control over their personal behavior, the responsibility for their personal safety are taken away from the people and entrusted to others who, by usurpation or delegation, are vested with the powers to make the laws for everything and everybody, and to oblige the people to observe them, if need be, by the use of collective force. In this sense of the word, state means government, or to put it another way, it is the impersonal abstract expression of the state of affairs, personified by government, and therefore the terms abolition of the state, society without the state, etc., describe exactly the concept which anarchists seek to express of the destruction of all political order based on authority and the creation of a society of a free and equal members based on a harmony of interests and the voluntary participation of everybody in carrying out social responsibilities. But the word has many other meanings, some of which lend themselves to misunderstanding, especially when used with people whose unhappy social situation has not given them the opportunity to accustom themselves with the subtle distinctions of scientific language, or worse still, when the word is used with political opponents who are in bad faith and who want to create confusion and not understanding. Thus, the word state is often used to describe a special kind of society, a particular human collectivity gathered together in a particular territory and making up what is called a social unit, irrespective of the way the members of that said collectivity are grouped or of the state of relations between them. It is also used to simplify as a synonym for society, and because of those meanings given to the word state, opponents believe, or rather they pretend to believe, that anarchists mean to abolish every social bond, all collective work, and to condemn all men to living in a state of isolation, which is worse than living in conditions of savagery. The word state is also used to mean supreme administration of a country, the central power as opposed to the provincial or communal authority. And for this reason, others believe that anarchists want a simple territorial decentralization with the government principle left intact, and they thus confuse anarchism with cantonalism or communalism. Finally, state means the condition of being, a way of social life, etc., and therefore we say, for instance, that the economic state of the working class must be changed, or that the anarchist state is the only social state based on the principle of solidarity. And other similar phrases which, coming from us who, in another context, talk of wanting to abolish the state, can at first hearing seem fantastic or contradictory. For these reasons, we believe it would be better to use expressions such as abolition of the state as little as possible, substituting for it the clearer and more concrete term, abolition of government. Anyway, is what we shall do in the course of this pamphlet. All right, folks, that wraps up video number 1. I'm going to keep going on number 2. You ready? Don't forget, if you like these videos and you'd like to help support us, please do so by hitting the like and subscribe button. It would mean a lot to us. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.